turns from one side of the placket to the other so you can make sure that you hit it in the sewing. So let's go over to the machine. I'm going to do my regular line of shish kebab sewing. Again, I'm going to kind of aim to be on the body side of the stay stitch, but if I'm on that side, I'm only on that side by the width of the needle, so it's like by a 64th of an inch. Otherwise, I'm really just aiming to stitch straight down my stay stitch line. Again, we're electing to do all of this in contrast thread so that you can see it a little more easily. In the long run, once it's in matching thread, then it should all disappear. So I'm starting to approach the center line, and I've got all this excess crap at the bottom. Watch what I do. I'm going to start by sewing with it all on that side of the placket. I'm making sure that I've got my fingers underneath so I can feel that nothing's rolling around. This is where your shish kebab becomes super important, because I don't want to take this out any earlier than I have to. Otherwise, it's going to start to move. And keeping my eye on the stay stitch line, I get all the way to that center point. Once I get to that center point, and you notice that I turned it by hand. I didn't even use my foot or the pedal. Once I got to the center point, then I shift everything in that direction, and I can work my way up the other side. Again, that's super important, because if my line of sewing is too far that direction, I'm going to get a big old pleat at the bottom of my placket. And if it's too far in that direction, as Catherine has noted, there's no fabric there to sew to. So I'm going to end up with a hole. So then I work my way up the other side. I did start, and I will end with a back stitch. This is not a stay stitch line, it's a structural line of sewing. And you can see that I've essentially got one line of sewing on top of the other. Now, before we go any further, let's check over here. Sometimes this ends up going like that or like that because the pin has started to allow the layers to slide around, because it's only got that one single stab point. So the first thing I like to do is check right here to make sure that it's actually all aligned.
You did a great job.
That looks pretty good. So now let's pull the pin and let's look underneath. Do I have a big old pleat? No, not at all, actually. It lays completely flat. Do I have a hole? I'm actually getting close to having a hole right there, but I'm in pretty good shape. We are going to go back in a minute and reinforce all of that. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to see it flat with the pocket sticking up.
This is a really good way to test it. Pull it back into its original orientation. If you see all sorts of texture through here, then you have a potential problem. You may have a little bit of texture because you just folded it all up and it needs to be pressed, but you can see the difference between wrinkles and actual pleats. Now I'm going to the ironing table. Follow me.
Yay. That was real.
I'm working from the right side of the garment. This is crucial, that you're not working from the wrong side. I'm pressing it almost like I'm pressing a dart. I'm going to press all of my seam allowance so it's going into the placket. So just working from the right side, use the edge of the iron to shove everything over. Excuse me.
Bless you.
This is a perfect example of, just like we've talked about with the darts, using the edge of the iron to get everything nice and flat. You definitely do not want any kind of little pleat or anything right here when you press. It's all got to be smooth that way. After I do both sides, I am going to take a minute and just press the bottom right here to make sure that it's all relaxed into place as well. Now comes this disappearing marker line This is crucial. This is where it comes into play. I think if I say that every step is crucial, it sort of defeats the point, doesn't it?
We're just going to have anxiety attack constantly. while we
Right,
do it.
exactly. Turn your fabric so that it's wrong side up, then fold along this edge and press.
Just, is there a specific measurement?
I'm pressing on my disappearing marker
Oh,
line.
right. Okay.
So I'm pressing a 1/2 inch back. I'm going to trim these threads. You can see we have our cut edge of the front of the blouse. We have the cut edge of the front edge of the placket and that cut edge. Where we're headed is we're going to do that. Essentially, all we've done is we've put a very fat binding onto the slash that's down the front of this. So it's just a fancy way of binding off the edge to be able to keep the whole thing from falling apart.
Did you ever say if we're doing interfacing or not?
We haven't gotten there yet,
Okay.
so hold on. All right, so now, last pinning step, last major pinning step.